Hello and welcome back, children. This is Mr. Muzaffar presenting before you the sixth chapter of your Honeydew Reader. The name of the chapter is Expert Detectives. My dear children, this story is about Maya. Who is Maya? She was 10 years old girl. She was 10 years old girl and her brother namely Nishad. He was 10 years old. 10 years old. They both were working expert detectives. They both were working expert detectives. Okay, there was, they were, and their neighbor, Mr. Nath. In their surroundings, one more individual was living. The name of that individual was Mr. Nath. Mr. Nath, who was living in their surroundings. But they both were curious to know about Mr. Nath. They have curiosity to know more about Mr. Nath, who had been living at Shankar House. Where he was living? He was living at a Shankar House for over a year, and was their mother's patient. What he was doing there? He was their mother's patient. He was very lonely and thin man and looked starved. He was lonely. How he was looking? He was looking lonely. Okay, and he was thin and he was a poor individual. A poor individual. This is the reason he looked starved. How he looked? He looked starved. Who was Maya? She was a detective, and she had an opinion that he was a criminal. He was a criminal on the run and had lot of money stacked somewhere in his room. Okay, no experts. They were detectives. They were guessing. They were they have eye on him. They were eye on him. Now they were discussing that this individual who was her mother's patient. On his opinion, he thought that he's a criminal. He's a criminal, and he a criminal on the run and had lots of money stacked somewhere in his room. While Nishad, on the other hand, Nishad was also who was Nishad? He was also a detective. Nishad was also a detective. He is guessing that he's a poor. He was a poor. He's a poor. Who is poor? Mr. Nath is a poor and friendless soul and friendless soul and no proper means to sustain himself and no proper means to sustain himself. But both agreed that both agreed that Maya and Nishad agreed that they were working as expert detectives. They agreed that there was something peculiar and strange about Mr. Nath. There was something peculiar and strange about Mr. Nath. Since then they were debating. Since then they were debating about him and his possible profession. They're always, because their work was to detect him. They used to discuss. They used to debate. They used to debate and discuss about Mr. Nath. Sometimes they were guessing, that he's criminal. He is criminal. He has stacked money somewhere in his room, and sometimes they were guessing that he is poor and friendless. He is poor and friendless, my dear children. My dear children, this is the reason he, had no proper means to sustain himself, and now they both agreed. That he had something peculiar and strange. Something peculiar and strange about Mr. Nath. Since then, they were debating, and about him, Mr. Nath, and his possible profession. Okay, Maya intercepted the burn marks on his face to be caused by a fire, started by a police. Now she's observing him. She's glancing at him, and she has seen fire burners. What she has seen, Maya intercepted the fire burners on his face. What Maya intercepted? She intercepted fire burners on his Mr. Nath's face, on Mr. Nath's face. Now she's investigating that why they have burnt his, second. Sorry, why they have burnt his, face to be caused, burn mark on his face to be caused by a fire started by the police to turn him out of his house, My dear children, hope you have understood, this part of this lesson. Tomorrow I am going to teach you the next part of this lesson. My dear children, I'm again advising you, please watch these videos again and again. If you have any query, you can contact me telephonically, or you can arrange a conference call. Thank you and have a good day.